Hi everyone, I'm Taylor and welcome to the Tribe Life's 30 Days of Yoga Challenge. For today's class, I wanted to take a break from the strong flows that we've been doing lately and show you another side of yoga, right? So sometimes, I'll often hear people saying, I'm not flexible enough for yoga, or it's too much of a workout for me, right? Where does the relaxation kick in? So there's so many different styles of yoga, and so for today I wanted to introduce you to a more restorative type of class. So today's class is going to be super gentle, super relaxing, and awesome to do before you go to bed. So a few things that I recommend, a few props. If you have them, you'll be able to find, if you don't have them, you'll be able to find the equivalent in your house somewhere, I'm sure of it. So a pillow or two, if it's a big pillow like this, you might only need one, maybe get two if they're thinner pillows, a blanket, and if you have 2 blocks or something that you can use the equivalent of, right? We don't necessarily need all this stuff, but just a suggestion. So when you're ready, get on some comfy clothes, roll out your mat, and we will begin. All right, so with this being a restorative class, a more relaxing and gentle class, I'm gonna use the props that I have. So you can either take your blanket, a pillow, prop up your hips. I'm going to use a blanket for today, and just rolling it so it's, whatever height you need, higher or lower. And this will just help take some stress out of our hips here, elevating our hips. So this is a more comfortable seated position for us, a little bit more relaxing. You'll notice maybe some tension in the hips, right away, going away when you sit on these. So start in a seated position. As always, we're gonna slow down, tune in a little bit, check in with our breath, our bodies, our minds. So sitting nice and tall with the heart over the hips. Resting the palms on your thighs, or you can lay them face up, your choice. And close your eyes and start to notice your breath. Notice if you're taking shallow breaths and if you are trying to expand that. So taking longer inhales and longer exhales. Seeing if you can inhale for a count of 5 and exhale for a count of 7, a little bit longer. And so just tuning into the breath, slowing it down. Giving yourself permission right now to not do anything but this. And then finally, your intention. Setting your intention for class today. And maybe with this being a restorative class, you use something, maybe you just repeat relax, or let go, or be still are a few of my favorites. So pick one you like, or if there's something else that stands out to you, whatever it is, just set your intention. Take a deep inhale through our nose. Exhale out your mouth. And then you can open your eyes. And we'll come to a very supportive child's pose. So child's pose is already a pretty relaxing kind of pose, but to make it even more restorative, there's a few things we can do. And so we're going to be here for a few breaths, so I would recommend getting as comfortable as possible. If you want to come to normal child's pose without the props, feel free. Otherwise, take a blanket, and I would just lay this down if you think laying here for a little bit will hurt your knees or your ankles or shins, just for some extra padding. And then you'll take the blanket in front of you, right? And then sitting here or laying here with your big toes touching, knees wide, with the pillow in front of you, you'll start to reach forward with the arms and resting on the blanket. I'm just turning, hopefully my mic's not getting all messed up. Just turning whatever cheek feels good for you. So actually, let's all do the same way. So start to lay down on that right cheek. And we'll just relax here for a few breaths. So take a deep inhale. Exhale out your mouth. And keep breathing. You know, these aren't usually the poses or the type of yoga that we hear in popular media, right? You know, on Instagram there's all the toughened versions, which offer lessons in themselves, but oftentimes we forget to also include some stillness into our lives. And restorative is one of those types of yoga and practice that gives us permission to do that. So it's one of my favorites. Take a few more breaths. And know that you can always stay longer in a pose. You know, these are always just suggestions, options, but if you're enjoying this and you'd rather not come into any new pose that I suggest, honor your body, do what feels good for you. So keeping your legs where they are, we'll just rotate the head over in the other direction. So evening out both sides. And so now our left cheek is on the pillow. Taking a few breaths. And as we lay here, always tuning into your breath, right? And noticing as you breathe, maybe your belly balloons out a little bit, pressing against the blanket or the pillow. Maybe you notice the lungs expanding in the back of your body a little bit more than you usually do. Just tuning into those things, right? Taking a few more breaths. As you breathe here, maybe you notice your belly ballooning out, pressing against the pillow. And also noticing maybe you're breathing more in your back body than you noticed before. Just tuning into those few things, right? Just starting to notice. So keep breathing. So restorative is one of those hidden gems, right? Where it might not be the most popular class that's all over social media with inversions and things like that, but it's so necessary to take some time to slow down, remove ourselves from the constant messages and emails, and just tune into ourselves. And that's why I love restorative. And this type of practice is really hard for some people, myself included, when I first started this practice. Like sitting still with our thoughts, tuning into our body is hard. It's hard. So as physically easy as this pose may seem, it's hard to sit here with our thoughts sometimes. So be gentle to yourself as we lay here in these poses. Just giving yourself space to breathe, right? Space to think or not think. And so we'll start to come forward. You can rise back up off the pillow. And then we'll come into one of my other favorite poses. Actually, all of these are my favorite poses, but this one is particularly awesome. This is called legs up the wall. So all you need is a wall. And I'm gonna take my blanket and place it next to the wall on the ground so that it's not as hard on my body. And then the way you get into this pose is you will bring your right hip up next to the wall. So sitting next to the wall, I'm gonna remove my microphone. So sitting up next to the wall, your right hip against the wall, right? And then start to lean to the left as you continue to lay down, bringing the legs up the wall, okay? And then laying down. So you might notice, like for me, my hips are pretty far away from the wall right now. So just do your best to wiggle closer. You want to try to get your butt touching the wall. Wow, it was farther than I thought. Okay, there we go. So wiggling your hips and your body forward so that they're touching the wall with the legs up, right? And so if your legs aren't as straight or as flexible, maybe your feet are like this, and that's fine. We just want to elevate the feet and the legs. So doing what feels good for you. So this pose is amazing if, well, it's amazing for everyone, but especially if you are standing a lot during your day, if you travel a lot. Also, if you're jet lagged, this is like my go-to. It's awesome. It circulates the blood a little bit, gives you some fresh blood, fresh oxygen to your head, your upper body, takes some of the pressure off of our feet, our ankles, and our legs. Kind of forces you to slow down a little bit too. It has a very relaxing effect. So as you're laying here, you might notice already just kind of this like heaviness in a good way, or you feel very grounded on the ground, except for your feet are flying up high. And also you might notice your feet are feeling a little bit lighter, maybe a little cold, and a little numb as the blood leaves them. And we just lay here. You can place your hands on your heart and your body as well as you breathe. Just relaxing into this pose. So this pose is totally underrated. I love it. We should do more of it in studios, I think, not just restorative classes. Another variation that I don't have another blanket to show you this right now, but if your legs are pretty straight up, you know, and they're pretty comfortable up in the air, you can gently flex your feet a little bit, and you'll put a blanket on top of your feet. So something that has a little bit of weight to it, not like, you know, we're not putting weights on our legs, but something that you feel, right? Like not like a super light blanket or something, just something that has some weight to it, and you place it on there, and it gives a pretty cool grounding effect, right? So like our feet are up in the air, and it can be very comforting for whatever reason. Also in this pose, sorry, I'm kind of rambling, but you can take a blanket. This pillow is pretty big, but if you have a smaller pillow, you can place that on your belly too, and you just feel very grounded, very supporting. It's very healing, this pose, all the different variations. So we'll just take a few more breaths. Maybe you really notice, like my feet are really numb right now. It feels kind of cool. So take a deep inhale through your nose. Exhale out your mouth. And then we'll transition out of this pose. Again, you can, as I said in the first pose, You can always stay in any pose that feels good for you, right? If you're like, I'm good, I'm gonna stay here for the rest of class, you go, okay? Honor your body. You can always do this class over again, replay the video, pick a different pose, whatever. This is still yoga. So you can stay here, or you can start to just lower the feet, bringing the knees into your chest, maybe even give them a hug. And then the same way you got in, same way you can get out. So just rolling onto your left or right side. And then you'll start to press up and we'll come back up. So the next pose that we're going to do is we're going to lay on our back. So I got my cords all over the place. So we actually maybe put a blanket on the ground. There's a few ways you can do this, but I'll put a blanket on the ground just to give some extra padding on my back, right? And then if you have 2 pillows or 2 blocks, I think that would be best for this pose. And then start to lay down on the mat. Okay, so we're laying down. Bring the feet together, knees open. And then if this is restorative enough for you, stay here, right? Honor your body. Otherwise, you can also place blocks or pillows on the outsides of your hips or on the outsides of your thighs. You just feel held, for lack of a better term. It might sound kind of corny, but you just feel kind of held in this space. Like, it's just very comforting, very relaxing. And then you can bring your palms on your left hand to your heart, right hand to your belly. Or the opposite. I'm trying to remember. I don't really think it matters. If it does, I'll let you know. But bring your left hand or your hands onto your body. And just breathe here as you, we're going to be here for a few breaths like the last pose. Taking your time to wind into the pose. Slow down. And hopefully at this point in this class, you might have found it's a little bit easier to relax and let go. I know, like, the first couple times I took yoga, even like the final Shavasana, which we will do after this, even that final Shavasana pose was like, oh my God, get me out of here. I would check the time, see how long we've been laying there. And I mean, really, you're only in final Shavasana for like 1 minute to 5 minutes, people. It's not that much, but it's crazy how the mind can take over and, stress you out over little things like that. Give yourself a few minutes. So keep breathing. If your hands are on your belly, you might notice the belly and the chest rising and falling with each breath, kind of like a wave in the ocean. You can also bring your arms out to cactus, nice and wide, or up and over your head too, for a nice chest and heart opener. And if you have a yawn, let it go. This is a super relaxing class. Continue to breathe. Take a deep inhale through your nose. Exhale out your mouth. So you can either stay here for the final pose as we finish class together, or follow me. I will lead us to the final pose. So if your knees were on the legs were on the block or pillows, you can just grab the outsides of your legs, bringing them back together. I'm gonna slide the blocks out to the side, and you can lay on that blanket if that feels good, or to kind of get into the whole grounding effect I was talking about earlier, there's a few things we can do to make this final pose even more relaxing. So if you have your pillow, or even if you have a blanket and you roll it up into kind of like a tube pillow, you can slide it underneath your knees. For me, I'm just gonna kind of do this. It has a similar effect, not as great, but just putting it under there, and then rolling down. I'm gonna take my blanket and I'm just gonna lay it on my chest and my belly. Super grounding effect, right? So just fixing the blanket, laying it on top. Oh, this is so relaxing. So play around with it, see what feels good. If you're getting a little cold too, place a blanket on, and then we'll settle into this pose. So take a deep inhale through your nose. Exhale out your mouth. For the next few breaths, like the next minute, we'll lay here. Allow yourself to melt. Final pose of the class today. And after a minute, I will wake us up to finish class together. Or pause the video now and take as long as a shavasana as you'd like. Slowly start to wiggle your fingers and your toes. As you start to awaken the body, you can reach your arms up overhead, stretching from your fingertips to the tips of your toes. And taking your time, rolling onto your right side body. And then eventually making your way up to a nice comfortable seated position on your mat. So taking your time getting here, no rush. Now we're going to take a deep breath together. So take a deep inhale through your nose. Exhale out your mouth. Inhale, reaching your arms up overhead. Exhale, hands to heart. I always close practice with a moment of gratitude, thinking of one thing you're grateful for and holding in your heart now. Thank you for practicing with me today. Hope you have a great day. Namaste.